Welcome to the Marconi Project, an oral history series of the Italian American Museum of Washington, D.C. In these interviews, we capture the memories and experiences of Italian immigrants and Italian Americans in the nation's capital. We are ready to hear your story.
Good morning. The interview today, June 30th, 2024, is with GianPiero Forcina. His life story we're about to learn is unlike most of the other interviews we've done for the Marconi Project. GianPiero came to America after he received his degree from the University of Rome, and when he arrived, he already spoke English. Therefore, he is not the traditional immigrant story that we have recorded in the past. Most revealing about him, at least to me, is that perhaps what we have before us today is a pioneer in the sense that he's one of the first of the many who left Italy and took with them a great deal of knowledge, the so-called brain drain. Now, Italy has got the serious problem of highly qualified professionals leaving the country every day, to the extent that, based on the latest information I've seen from Istat, which is the Italian Statistical Institute, about 10% of Italy's workforce is overseas. About 10% of Italy's workforce is overseas, based on the AREL. This is the Italian foreign, the embassies has a list of all these people working overseas. And a lot of these people are doctors, engineers like GianPiero, and other skills. So it costs Italy, according to these statistics from Istat, about 14 billion euros every year is lost to the Italian state, which consists of the cost of educating these people who leave the country, plus the loss to economic activity. These people go and produce overseas instead of producing in Italy. So in many ways, our interview today is unique in the sense that he is not the immigrant story that we have heard in the past, but it's a new twist on that part of the immigration that is completely different from what we have seen in the past. Okay, so now, GianPiero, if you allow me, I will ask you some questions and you can answer us. I will follow the outline that we discussed. So the first question is, well, tell us about your youth in Italy. Where are you from? And what in particular would you like to pass on to posterity? What you want to, the people who listen to this in the future, what you want them to know? Where are you from? What can you tell us about Italy?
Okay, let me start from the beginning. Most important thing for this discussion is where I was born. And I was born in Rome. I was born in Rome from my parents, Roman, spoke Italian with my parents. Another important thing is that my parents' house, was really close to the Vatican. So my life was influenced by being so close to the Vatican. I think I show a picture of the Dome of St. Peter that I can look at my window, from my courtyard window. And the other important thing is that the school I went is a Vatican school. It's a school, it's called Istituto Pio IX, Via della Conciliazione, that belongs to the Vatican. And so I went there from my elementary school all the way to the end of high school before I went to university. So very much influenced by the Vatican. We're talking before that I was baptized in St. Peter, in the tapestry, which is the first chapel to the left as you go in. It's interesting to know that the basin, the baptismal font is a basin. In reality, it's a sarcophagus made of red marble, porphyry, which is believed to be the tomb of Emperor Hadrian in the Castel Sant'Angelo. Okay, the other interesting thing of the school is that in the 1800s, it was headquarters of soldiers, called Zouaves, soldier with the funny pants, that were a battalion in charge of defending the Papal States. So I'm very much Vatican-oriented in my life because of
Tell us a little bit more about, one of the things we ask people. We come from Italy. If you come from Rome, you have one dialect. You come from Sicily, you have another dialect. Now there is an effort to get rid of all the dialects. They want everybody to speak the Italian, but there's also a counter movement to resuscitate all the dialect, because so with the dialect comes a tradition. Some things you can say in a dialect that doesn't make sense when you say in Italian. I know Neapolitan dialect. There's some things you can only say in Neapolitan. You can't say it in Italian. So what did you? I guess you were born and went to school in the Vatican. I assume maybe you spoke Latin instead of Roman. What did you speak?
We spoke Italian with Roman words very often, variation of the name by cutting the ending, which is typical of the Roman dialect. But as of the Roman dialect, with my parents, I spoke Italian, but we were students of the old Roman dialect. In particular, my father and I loved to read sonnets by Gioacchino Belli, who was a Roman poet of the 1800s, who wrote thousands of sonnets in a strong Roman language. And I enjoyed reading those and learning about those. And I got books even here, a lot of books about poetry in Roman dialect. So I'm very familiar with that. But spoken, it was just Italian with some designation, some changes at the ending, but not a big dialect change. No, pretty much close to Italian.
So Roman has his own dialect. So you got a Neapolitan dialect, but you also have a Roman dialect. I thought the Roman dialect was just it's the way so they ate the vowels at the end. Afra, che ti serve? Ti serve qualcosa?
Cutting often the ending of parola, words, but also with the special dialect expression or idioms that you wouldn't know if you're not Roman.
The only one I remember when I was in Rome, Andreotti, was a friend of this. I can't remember his name. It was a big construction company, and the rumor was that when every time you see Andreotti, he would say, "Aggiù, che ti serve?"
Tanto per dire una, leggevo su internet, la nostra primo ministro, Giorgia Meloni, che è di Roma.
Parla romano.
Parla romano pure. C'era non so qual era l'argomento, ma parlando con i suoi due vici, uno è Tajani e l'altro è Salvini, si parlava di un certo argomento, allora il resto dell'udienza si è alzata in piedi, e loro due non si alzavano in piedi, gli ho detto: "Oh raga, alzatevi in piedi".
Oh raga, ragazzi, oh raga.
Raga, alzatevi in piedi.
Okay. All right. During your youth, when you grew up, you went to school. You were 3 years old when the war ended. Tell us a little bit about what you remember about Italy during, your early years. Italy was going through a major transition, right, from a war-torn countries, particularly Rome, to but they took off the boom years. What do you remember about that?
3 years old, I remember a few things, but I do remember the American soldiers going around the Piazza San Pietro and giving candies to the bambini. But after that, when I grew up, there were changes. Like for instance, my father, he was in the Air Force prior to the war. But when the war was ended, he didn't have a job, and no army, no Air Force. So he had to start doing other things. He started working in a hardware store. It was a lot of changes in my parents' life after the war ended. Me as a kid, and I just went to school. I had my own special little life. I didn't know much of the politics.
Tell us a little bit about your years at the University of Rome. When you went to University of Rome, tell us a little bit about what was the atmosphere like. You hear a lot about the universities are overcrowded. There's a lot of turmoil. Tell us a little bit. How was life in the University of Rome? I guess it was in the 1950s, 60s?
50s, 60s.
Yeah.
Well, I went to the University of Rome. It's called La Sapienza. That's the name they use, which comes from an old Latin name of an earlier university. But where I went was the new university, the new buildings of the new university built by Mussolini. Majestic style, big.
Where was that? In UR?
It's near the San Lorenzo, near the cemetery, near Tiburtina Station.
San Lorenzo Cemetery, I know that.
Near the cemetery. Yeah. And so it was a big shocking because the first day, the first lesson was mathematics in this immense auditorium. In the classroom, there were 1,000 people. One professor way out there and 1,000 people behind, And it was not designed to make people learn fast. On the other hand, it was designed to make it difficult so as many people as possible drop out, so very few could continue on. In fact, we started engineering 1,000 people the first day. Then there is a stop after the second year. If you don't pass the exam, you don't go further. So in the third year, out of 2,000 were 300. So it was very tough. No much help received from the professors. But it was tough to pass the exam in that environment, very difficult. But I did. And then it comes the third year. It's not the same big university, La Sapienza, anymore. We moved to another building, another place, which is Faculty of Engineering, which is a very interesting place because it's a building on the Colle Oppio, facing the Colosseum, and was an old convent, which is attached to the Chiesa of San Pietro in Vincoli. San Pietro in Vincoli is an important chiesa because there is the statue of Moses, sculpted by Michelangelo. It was supposed to be the tomb of Pope Julius II. So we were attached to that place. The note I put there, it was also for a while a titular church of Cardinal McCarrick. And one time I saw him in the church. There was the inauguration of an old restored organ. They sponsored the restoration of the organ, so I met him there. So that's about it. So I did 3 years there, and then I got my degree.
It's interesting because it seems to me that we in the U.S. try to select students before they go to school. In Italy, since it's open admission, everybody goes to school. The selection happens during the process of teaching them. So it's kind of a backward. You got to let everybody in, and then.
Well, there is prior smaller selection because once you finish the high school and you go to university, you can choose what you do. If you pick engineering, it's difficult. You can, if you're not so well prepared, you go to easier faculties. But number one. But then to end the last exam of high school, which in France is called baccalaureate, it's a very tough exam.
Yes, I know.
So that some people might not pass that at least the first time around, maybe the second time around, or even the third time around. So there is a stoppage there, but still people go through.
But still, you have 3,000 people start engineering, and at the end of the third year, there's only 300. So it's self-selection, or
Yeah, that's the selection right there.
because I remember when the government tried to do the reverse of what we have in the States, trying to that people take exams in order to be admitted to medical school, for example, because everybody, for a while, a lot of Americans used to go to Italy to get a medical degree because it was open to everybody. Right. When the government tried to require exams, there was a big brouhaha. They said, no, that's elitist, you know. Right. But anyway, we won't get into that. So you received your degree in electronics engineer. And then tell us a little bit about what happened after that and how you wound up coming to America.
So well, there are two things happened before that. First of all, I finished the degree, and then I realized by going to meet people in parties that I didn't speak English. I studied 8 years of French. I knew it very well, actually, but not English. So I was really mad that I didn't know English. So I said, I gotta go learn English. So we went with a friend of mine from college. We said, well, let's go to England and study English. So here we go, we get on our Cinquecento, we drive to England, and then start going to a school of English in London for 3 months. After 3 months, my friend who was less shy than I, started answering hands on the English paper and found a job. I said, wow, amazing. I'd like to try too. So he wrote me a letter for me too, and I got hired also. So the two of us went to work for a Marconi company. Marconi company in Chelmsford, Essex, was an old factory, brick building, where Marconi himself worked in the early days of his English activity. So I was there doing circuit design for about a year. So after that, in those days, in Italy there was a compulsory military service. Now it's no longer like that, but it used to be like that. So I decided to join the Air Force, and I was admitted to the Air Force Academy in Florence. I was there for 3 years, 3 months. Then I got I passed the exam and I became a lieutenant. And then I was assigned to the Ministry of Air Defense, which I was there for a year. And then when that was done, I started looking for a job in Rome. And I found a job with this company called Telespazio, which is still there today, which works, specialized in communication via satellite. Mm-hmm. This is the company that in Avezzano, in Abruzzo, Piana del Fucino, by now it must have like 50 antennas. In my days, I had 2 antennas. So I started working with them, but after a while I realized there was too much politics in the work. So I didn't quite like it. But I wanted to, after about a year, I wanted to leave. So I told my boss, hey, I really don't like it here, I'd like to leave. And very good guy, a chief engineer. Said, well, if we send you to America, to Comstar Labs, to specialize in technology, would you change your mind? And I said, yes. I had to get another.
What year was that?
October 1970.
October 1970. That was very the beginning, huh? When
Very big. In fact, Comstar Labs, that labs only was set up only in 1969, so it was 1 year old. It was the most advanced research and technology available in the world at the time.
So tell us, what was your reaction when you came to America? You knew a little English. You had gone to London with the Cinquecento. So, how did you make out when you landed in this place? How did you find it?
I found everything very big, but as I said, I was very impressed by the instrument, the satellite, everything they had there. There was something I could only dream of before I actually saw it. So it was very exciting.
Tell me, when you came to America, you joined a group of, I suspect, employees from all over the world. That they were just Italian and Americans, or there were others too?
There were every country in the world that belonged to the organization was able to send somebody like me. So there were people from many, many nations. Africa, Asia, Europe. And Italy had three or four people already there. So when I arrived, there were other Italians. And so it was easy to start working with them.
So you really came from Italy, but you joined an international organization.
That's correct.
So you didn't really, I imagine you didn't see yourself as the immigrant, but as part of an international organization.
That's correct.
So when did you really start feeling as an American? Because at some point you made the decision to stay in America. So what happened? How did you decide finally to stay here and join the brain drain?
Tell you what happened. I was sent for a year. After a year was up, I wanted to stay longer. So I asked my company in Italy, said, keep me another year. And they said, okay, we'll keep you another year. After the second year was up, I told them, I want to stay another year. And they said, no, that's enough. Either you come back or we fire you. And I said, all right, fire me. So they fired me. At that point, I didn't have the work at Comstar Labs. And one important thing, working at Comstar Labs, because all these people that came from abroad like me, they had a special visa to work there. It's called G4. Like a World Bank, sure. So when I stopped working, there was no more G4, right. And I have no visa. I couldn't do anything.
You were illegal.
I was illegal. So I decided to go to sign up in a university, George Washington University, for a master in engineering, electrical engineering. And I was accepted there. So I started studying. I got an apartment in Virginia, big little apartment. I started going to school. And I did that for 2 semesters, I don't remember, 2 or 3 semesters. Then somebody whom I met in Comstar Lab moved to another company called Fairchild.
Fairchild,
So he called me and said, look, if you want, we can find you a place here in Fairchild. That would be great. And also we'll give you a visa, H1. This is a
H1,
temporary visa.
That's the highly technical people.
Technical people. So I started working for Fairchild. It was kind of interesting. The most interesting thing is that I ran into Werner von Braun. I met him in the corridor, this good-looking, tall man. He was working for the company, I guess more like a PR work. But anyway, I was there. The company didn't last very long. It started going down the hill very quickly. So the person who were hiring me in Fairchild moved to Comstar General and got me a job in Comsa General, which is in D.C., it's in L'Enfant Plaza. I was in L'Enfant Plaza. And so I started working there. I worked there for 4 years. But one thing I requested them is, okay, I'm going to keep my H1 visa because I need it. Not only that, try to get me a permanent green card visa. And they were good enough, did all they had to do to get me a green card. First a work permit and then a green card. So then I was there with green card. And then after 4 years, Intelsat started hiring people, not Commercial Lab, but Intelsat. So I was able, because since I know somebody there, I was able to be hired in Intelsat, which is an international organization.
Back to the international world.
Back, exactly. So there I was for the rest of my career, 20 years. But having gotten the green card, I didn't need a green card to work in Intelsat, like the World Bank. You don't need a green card. But I had it. So after 5 years, I said, what the heck, I'm going to become an American. So I became an American, still working in the international organization. So there I was until retirement. So that's the story there.
Tell us, apparently, where did you meet Werner von Braun?
Fairchild Company.
Fairchild, he was there when you...
He was there because they hired him. They need some important PR men to get them contracts, you know. So they hired him.
But von Braun was already out of the U.S. government because
he was out of the U.S. government.
He was already out of the U.S. government.
government.
So he was retired and he was working for. You know. I guess von Braun was a famous German missile genius who helped Hitler first, and then he came and helped the Americans.
Right.
Tell us a little bit about your relationship to Italy now, because you came as international, you stayed here, but what is it? Are you still going back and forth? What's your relationship with Italy?
Well,
what can you tell us about?
Being the only child, and my parents were there and I was here, I tried to go back, even when I work at Intelsat, I tried to go back as much as I could to visit them, right? At least in Christmas time, I would go. Also, I found another way to go visit them, because I was assigned to participate in a reunion in Geneva in the Council of Communication, International Council of Communication. So often I was sent to Geneva for work. So I would go there with a plane, go to Geneva, work 2 days or 3 days. Here comes the weekend. And the weekend on Friday night, I get on a train. And a train from Geneva to Rome with my parents. That's a train where there are a lot of real immigrants, you know.
Yes.
Those that come with salami and wine, yeah. And so I would meet my parents, and then on a Monday I would take a plane back to America. So I did that many times to visit them. Anyway, after they passed away, you know, I decided to. We had a big apartment, very big apartment, but we divided in two parts: one little part and a bigger part. And the bigger part we sold. The little part we kept. So, because of that, and my wife, oh, by the way, I got married in the process. We and my wife go there. So far, it's been twice a year.
Tell us, you probably one of those individuals that I've met who has a long history with Holy Rosary Church. When did you start coming to this church, and what maybe you could tell us a little bit about the evolution of the church.
As soon as I came to Washington, I found out that there was the Holy Rosary Church. So I started coming in because it was a place with Italians, I would feel at home. I really liked the idea very much. Casa Italiana. This was the time of Padre Donazan, I think.
Donazan. So what year did you come here first?
1970.
When you came here, yeah. So you frequented this church since 1970.
From the 70s, end of 70.
End of 70.
So that was the beginning. They were finishing building the Casa Italiana.
So you saw the Casa Italiana go up.
Yeah. And anyway, so I started knowing people. I met many other Italians that came to the church, so we started building relationships.
So you have seen the changes in the church. What can you share? Any reactions? What you've seen? There were more Italians then than there are now, because now a lot of the people come to church. Not really. They come to the Italian Mass. I don't know how many people really understand what the priest is saying when they come to the Italian Mass on Sunday.
There were many more Italians that eventually left and went back to Italy. But I kept contacts with those. When I go to Italy, I try to see them. Several doctors, Dr. Luccioli and many others. Yeah, there were more Italian active working in Washington, but born in Italy, not here. And they were coming to the church because of the Italian language. The kids would go to the school. Yeah. So there were more of them, but then little by little they moved away. So I suppose even now there must be people from the embassy that come here, right?
Yeah, sporadically they come, not frequently. Did you finish your career with the Italspazio? How did you?
With the Intelsat. Sorry, Intelsat.
Intelsat.
The Spazio was fired.
Okay. So you stayed with Intelsat
till the end, till retirement. One interesting thing is that Intelsat being a consortium of 174 countries, there were reunions, technical reunions or financial reunions, where people from the various participating countries would come to Washington for these meetings. Telespazio, my old company, was one of the members of Intelsat. So very often I would see my friend that I used to work with in Italy coming to the meeting. So I kept friendship with lots of people I was working for, because every 3 months they would come here.
Okay, I see that you said you've been going back to Italy quite frequently, and it's clear that you have studied the eternal city of Rome in some detail, and you have shared your thoughts in this very nice book, which you kindly gave me a copy of, called Roman Walks. So for those of us who have gone to the Trevi Fountain, believe it or not, the first time I went to the Trevi Fountain, I didn't know where it was. There was no GPS, so I had to ask somebody, what the hell is the Trevi Fountain? I was with somebody who allegedly was from Rome, and I said, don't you know where the Trevi Fountain is? No, I've never been there. So anyway, so people go to the Trevi Fountain, and they think just 3 coins in the fountain, but there's a big history about that, how it was built, and all the arts and the engineering that went in to deliver the water to the Trevi Fountain. Roman Walks is a fascinating book. It's in English, and we will have some copies in the library. And GianPiero, I want to thank you very much for the interview. I think it's very fascinating. As I said at the beginning, it's an unusual kind of interviewee. As I said at the beginning, you're one of many of these highly qualified people who leave Italy and go to work overseas. And then from that standpoint, you're one of the pioneers. And so I want to thank you again. And my name is Ciro De Falco, and I did the interview with GianPiero. GianPiero, again, thank you very much for giving us your time and this very interesting interview.
Okay, thank you.